Let's get right into it and talk about the starting line. The starting line is between the closest mark to the signal boat and the orange flag on the signal boat. The flag can be anywhere on the boat, on the bow, stern, or in the middle of the boat. A boat is considered to be over the starting line if she is in the triangle formed between the signal boat, the other mark of the starting line, and the first mark. So it's okay to be windward of the line in the positions highlighted here within the last minute of the start. Also note, if the upwind leg is skewed to one side, it can create an unusually shaped area to avoid. A boat that is over the starting line will be scored OCS. That stands for on course side, meaning that the boat was on the course side of the starting line rather than behind it. Her score will be the number of boats competing plus 1. The standard starting sequence is a 5-4-1-0 countdown. At the 5-minute mark, the signal boat raises the class flag to indicate which fleet will be starting and fires one sound signal. This will be the first flag you see and the first sound you hear. If you're not in the starting fleet, you should keep well clear of the starting area. At the 4-minute mark, another flag is raised to indicate which starting rule will be used to start the race. We'll talk more about possible starting rules later on in this video, but for now, I'm going to show the P flag. The reason we do 5 and then 4 minutes is to allow you to sync your watch. Often you won't catch exactly the first gun, and if you have a sailing watch, you can press the sync button at the 4-minute mark to match up to the exact time. Then at 1 minute, the starting rule flag is lowered along with a sound signal, and at 0, the class flag is lowered and boats may cross the line. There's one long sound signal at 0. So the sequence is up, up, down, down with a 5-4-1-0 timing. The first and last flags are the class flag. What happens if the race committee makes an error during the starting sequence? If there was an error such as forgetting or mistiming a sound signal, or if the wind shifted and the line is no longer fair, then the race committee will raise the AP or post-moment flag along with 2 sound signals. This flag may also be used outside of the starting sequence anytime the race committee needs to indicate to the fleet that the next race will be delayed by more than 5 minutes. When it is time to start the race again, the race committee will lower the AP flag along with 1 sound signal. The next flag and signal will be the 5-minute countdown for the next race. If the error was detected after the final signal, then the race committee will raise the N flag to abandon the race rather than AP. The N flag goes up with 3 sound signals. Now what happens if someone was over the line early? There are 2 possible situations: when the race committee can identify all of the boats and when they cannot. If the race committee cannot identify all the boats, for example, if one was hidden behind another one, it would be unfair to let some boats get away with an early start, and so we restart the whole race. The race committee will raise the first substitute, also known as the general recall flag, with 2 sound signals. All boats should return to the starting area. The race committee will then lower the general recall flag with 1 sound signal, and then the next signal will be the 5-minute signal for a new start. If the race committee can identify one or more boats that were over early, they will raise the X flag, also known as the individual recall flag, with 1 sound signal. They may hail the boats that were over early, but this is not required. The method of exoneration for being over early varies depending on the starting rule used, which we'll cover shortly. When all boats have exonerated themselves, then the race committee will lower the individual recall flag. The race is officially underway at the 4-minute signal. This means if you foul someone between 5 and 4 minutes, you don't need to take a penalty. It is also allowable to paddle or do other actions that may not be permitted by the rules between 5 and 4 minutes. If you do foul a boat after the 4-minute signal, but prior to 0 or go signal, then you can and should take your penalty during the starting sequence. Not only will you save racing time by taking your penalty before the start, but you also be sure that the exoneration counts. To be valid, you generally need to take your penalty within about 20 seconds of the incident. If you wait until after the start, then you could still be thrown out of the race. There are 5 common starting rules that can be used. The first is the P flag, which is commonly called the dip start rule. Under this rule, you may not be on the course side of the starting line at the go signal. If you are, then you can simply sail back through the line, making sure that every part of your boat crosses behind the line, and then return through the starting line again. You may also sail around one of the ends of the line and back through it if you wish. Either end of the line is fine. Typically, you would do this to avoid traffic, and if you're already close to one of the ends. When you're returning to the course side of the line, you lose all right of way and must keep clear of any boat that is not returning. Two boats that are both returning, normal right of way rules apply between them. The P flag is the most commonly used starting rule. The I flag is known as the around the ends rule. When this rule is in effect, any boat that is over the line after the 1 minute signal, not the go signal, must sail around one of the ends of the line and restart. If you do find yourself over the line at, say, 20 seconds, your best bet is to start sailing around one of the ends immediately. You don't need to wait for the go signal before you can begin taking the penalty. When the black flag is used, it means that any boat that is over early in the final 1 minute before the start of the race is disqualified from the race. There's no way to exonerate yourself under the black flag. If the race is restarted, for example with a general recall, then any boat disqualified may not participate in the restarted race. The race committee will generally try to hail these boats. The U flag is similar to the black flag, except that if there is a general recall or abandonment, then a boat over early will not be disqualified. Under a black flag, the race committee will disqualify any boat that they see over the line, but they may miss some boats, for example if there is a general recall. This can be unfair to those who are not seen relative to those who were seen, and so the U flag is seen as a little bit fairer version of the black flag. Note that under the U and black flags, the race committee will still raise the individual recall flag, even though there's no way to exonerate yourself. The last starting rule is the Z flag, or scoring penalty flag. Under this starting rule, any boat over the line in the last minute will receive a 20% scoring penalty, which means that a penalty will be added to her finishing place, and that penalty is equal to 20% of the number of boats competing in the race. You can see that the race committee has a lot of different starting rules at their disposal, with varying degree of penalty in each. The race committee will generally start with the P flag and then progress to stiffer penalties if they are getting a lot of general recalls. If you find out that you are over early but did not exonerate yourself, or the black or U flag was used, then you must retire from the race immediately. Sometimes the race committee will hail boats that were OCS at the top mark, for example. If you do not retire immediately, then you will be in violation of Rule 2, the sportsmanship rule. There's a more significant penalty for violation of this rule, and of course, it's bad sportsmanship. Finally, let's take a look at a few other flags that you may encounter. One that you'll often see is a course flag. The racing rules do not actually dictate possible courses or ways to indicate them, so it's best to check for this in your sailing instructions. Some regattas will indicate courses only in the sailing instructions, others will be communicated with a flag, and some race committees will write the course on a board. A Y flag indicates that life jackets must be worn at all times. The L flag has two meanings, but it's usually obvious which one applies. It either means come within hailing distance, which means that the race committee wants to communicate with all the competitors and they should sail close to the signal boat and listen for further instructions. It can also mean come follow me, which will be used if the race committee needs to move the location of the starting area, for example, if there is a wind shift. If the signal boat is on the move while flying the L flag, then this would be the meaning. The L flag can also be used on shore, which means that there's been an amendment to the sailing instructions and you should check the official notice board.